friend, Graham here from the recordingrevolution.com. Welcome back to the Mixing with Compression series. Hopefully you caught the first video where we unpacked what is a compressor doing under the hood anyway, and how should you think about a compressor. Well, today I want to unpack in more detail attack and release. Very critical settings that will change the tone and change the general use of the compressor. You can have a compressor do two radically different things, all by changing how you use attack and release. So again, these words meant nothing to me when I started, and maybe they mean nothing to you, and they might confuse you. And I want to make this less confusing. That's the goal of this video. And specifically, I'm going to explain what they're doing in more depth and show you examples of how to use them, how to think of them. And at the end, I'm going to show you how to make a fatter sounding snare drum using attack and release settings in a strategic way, just to give you an example. So let's zero in on these two settings. Forget all the other knobs right now on the compressor. We'll go into more depth about the rest of them in future videos, but attack and release really shape the way a compressor sounds. And as I mentioned in the first video, attack simply tells the little guy inside this compressor how quickly to start compressing, how quickly to start clamping down on the audio the moment it hears it come through the compressor. Okay, so the little man inside listens for the audio and he hears the audio. Attack time, if it's fast, tells him quickly pounce on that audio. And if it's slow, it says just wait a bit, let some of the audio pass through before you start to turn it down. And release is the opposite. The release says after the audio has gone through, if it's a fast release, quickly let go of the automatic volume fader and let it reset back to where it was quickly. Or a slow release means keep that audio down, keep it compressed for a little bit longer before you release it back to where it was. What does that mean for us practically? Well, think about it this way. The faster attack, the more you're clamping down on the transients. And I think snare drums are a great example because they're very visual. Look at this snare drum here. Okay, this is a nice, clean audio wave here where you can see the transient, which is the first little bit, where the smack of the stick on the snare drum head. And then beyond that, you kind of get the tail of the snare drum, kind of the rest of the snare drum. And if we butt up right to it, here we go. Right? You hear the snare and the bleed of the cymbals. And let's go maybe to a verse where there's fewer cymbals. That might be a little bit better. Less bleed. Butt up against that. Here we go. Okay. A fast attack, if this compressor is on this snare drum, a fast attack is going to say, all right, compressor, the moment you hear something, I want you to clamp down. So start compressing like in here potentially. If it's a super fast attack, 1 millisecond, something crazy fast, it is going to clamp down really fast. Why does that matter to us? It matters because it depends on what we want to do with the compressor. So instead of getting confused about compression, attack, and release times, let's think about what do we want to do with the compressor? Okay, what I want to do, let's say in this case is I want to fatten up the snare drum. Well, to fatten up the snare drum, what we have to do is basically increase the sound or the volume of the tail of the snare. That's the tone. You have the hit or the attack, and you've got the tone. So to turn up the tone of the snare drum, we in essence have to use a compressor to turn down the peak of the snare drum here a little bit. So it's at a closer volume level to this. And then with a makeup gain, like I showed in the first video, we can bring all of the snare drum back up, which in essence, all it does is it keeps the initial strike or the initial transient where it was, and then we've just turned up the tail a little bit, which makes us feel like the snare drum is fatter. Okay? So a fast attack will allow us to do that. Whereas a slow attack, it might start to compress, but it'll be after this initial peak, and we'll miss the peak that we could turn down. So let's listen to what this sounds like. Here is, again, the snare drum. And then let's turn the compressor on, a slow attack, fast release. Turn this down. If you look, it's not doing any compression. It's just such a slow attack. It's coming a little too late. It's missing the peak. Okay. If we have a super fast attack time, it's clamping down on it right away. You can see it's turning the output down. Over 6 dB of gain reduction. Remember, all a compressor does is turn things down, so we have to use the makeup gain to bring it back up to a level where it was before. A little closer. So now we look at the input-output, they're almost matched. You can almost bring the output gain back up a little bit more. So let's bypass this. No compression. You hear the hit and it kind of dies off. With compression, a little fatter. Now let's zoom this out a little bit. Just kind of play with the attack. Let's make it not so fast, a little bit faster release. So it lets go. Because again, I only want to turn down this part. I don't want to keep it compressing this part. So if I go a little faster release, it'll turn down the loud peak and then let go a bit so that this won't be compressed much. No compression. Compression. Way more tone in the snare. Way more tone. Way more sustain. It's technically the same peak volume. It's just a louder average volume. We hear it as louder because now this peak is about where it was before. We've turned it down and back up again, which seems redundant. But what this compressor has allowed us to do is turn the tone of it, the tail back up to match the initial peak. So you have this fatter tone in the snare, and which makes a big difference when you're just listening to, the drums, let's say. That's just the snare. No compression. It's just kind of like it quickly decays. You just hear the initial peak and it dies away. But this will fatten it up. Actually, I turn it down a little bit. Versus. So the reason I show you this example is I want you to see what attack can do. It can quickly clamp on a peak. So that is only generally helpful for you if you want to then fatten up the tail of the thing. So if you want to think about fattening things up, think about a faster attack to quickly clamp down that peak so you can turn it down. Then with a makeup gain, you'll turn up everything else to match it a little bit better. Now, typically, I like to start with sort of medium attack and medium release settings, and a lot of compressors might do that by default. But what I suggest you to do is don't be afraid to use extreme settings. Go all the way to the extreme just to learn what it's doing. So if we use this snare drum again as an example, let's do super fast attack, super fast release. Super slow attack, super slow release. It's not doing any compression. All we're doing is turning it up. It's not catching anything. So super fast attack, super slow release. See how slow it is for the gain reduction to get back to reset? It almost doesn't get back to the original volume before the next hit. What if we do slow attack, fast release? Nothing's happening. It's just too slow of an attack. It can't grab the snare drum, so it's not doing any compression. So you can kind of use extreme settings to figure out, I wonder what this will do. And that's what I want you to do, my friend. I want you to play with super fast attack, super slow attack, super fast release, super slow release. Don't be afraid to break the thing. Just go all the way to the left, all the way to the right, and just listen to what you hear. And just know that the attack and the release allow you to shape the tone. If you want to fatten things up, clamp down that transient quickly. Or the opposite could be true. If you want a real dynamic acoustic guitar that's real strummy and you want it to cut through, a super fast attack is probably going to swallow that up. It's probably going to reduce the life of that acoustic guitar and make it sound ugly and flat. And that's not what you want. So maybe back off on the attack, slow that attack down a bit so you compress it, but not nearly as much. And you're not losing the transients. That's all it is. So if you feel like your compressor is just swallowing everything up, you might have too fast of an attack and you can back it off. So attack and release. How fast and how slowly do you want the little man inside the compressor to jump on your audio? And how fast or slowly do you want that little man in your compressor to release the fader and let the audio go back to the reset volume? Now, if this was a lot for you or if you're getting confused, I don't want you to forget these things. I've tried to simplify it for you by giving you a little gift. It's called the 7-step compression checklist. Okay, what I've done is taken everything that I've talked about in this video and all 7 of these videos, put it into a simple PDF that you can download right now and print out or put on your phone or just have on your tablet next to your computer, wherever you're mixing, to call to mind all these actionable steps, techniques, tips, and even explaining all the knobs so you can use compression with confidence while you mix so you get better mixes. So just go to compression7.com, compression7.com. I'll put the link here in the video and below the video so you can just click on the button there. And it's my free gift to you. Just download it, free, simple PDF. All 7 steps will be there for you. And that way, compression, again, you'll remember how simple this thing is. It's so overwhelming at first because they've made it sound so confusing and you can ruin your audio with it. Hence why I'm doing this 7-part series. But the 7-step checklist will really help you have it all together in one document. So go check it out at compression7.com and download it as my gift to you. If you like these videos, subscribe so you'll be the first to know when the next one comes out. Other than that, my friend, have a great rest of your day. Make some great music, and I'll see you on the next video.